Okay, I need to clear up 2 points. Number one, that illiterate part is wrong. My mom and dad got married 2 weeks before I was born. As far as the economy and the ne'er-do-wells, I didn't have a lot of choice. That was my immediate family. You notice that I'm wearing a suit. And you don't find people from Oklahoma in suits very often. But if you do, you're going to hear one of 3 things. You're either going to hear, "You may now kiss the bride," "May he rest in peace," the most common, "Will the defendant please rise?" Now, a few things you'll never hear. "We're all vegan." "Honey, we're the thesaurus." "Checkmate." And "Alex, give me Shakespeare for a $5." Now, I find it ironic that I'm here today at a writers' conference when you consider I don't have a degree in English. I've never been to a writers' conference. I never took a creative writing class. I only took 1 writing class in college and didn't do very well in it. Only 2 things I remembered is that you need to avoid cliches like the pledge and double negatives are a no-no. But about 12 years ago, I got a phone call from an editor of a magazine. And he called me and said he wanted to offer me a job as a writer. Now, I didn't know that's why he was calling when we first started. He asked me on the phone, he said, "Norman, describe yourself in 3 words as accurately as possible." I said, "Lazy." "Yeah, it takes a minute." He said, "I want you to write a column." He said, "I want you to write a column every month in my magazine." Now, I didn't have any writing experience. I didn't know what to write or what to write about or how to do it. But other than that, I was a perfect man for the job. I asked him, because I really wanted to get out of it, I said, "What happens if I write a sentence and the sentence structure is bad?" He said, "I'll correct it." I said, "What happens if I misspell words?" He said, "I'll fix them and make them right." I said, "What if they're in the wrong order, they don't make any sense?" He said, "I'll put them in the right order so they do make sense." I said, "Well, if you don't do all that," I said, "Won't you write the sentence?" "What do you need me for?" Well, he went ahead and hired me, and I've now written for 5 different editors, 13 years, and I've written for 3 different magazines, and as of yesterday, it's going to be 4. So the question is how and why? How does a person get a job as a writer when he doesn't know nothing about it? Well, I'm going to tell y'all, it was a very serpentine route with some very savory advice from some unsavory characters. And that started out with my mother. Now, my mother, I got to tell y'all, I was from a marginal member of society. In other words, we was kind of poor. Now, we weren't dirt poor, but we were dusty. Now, growing up, we would go to the TGNY, and my mom was really bad at math. I'd want to buy a 50-cent toy, and she wouldn't let me have it, ever. She always said no. The meanest woman you ever met. But 50 cents for the toy, she wouldn't do it. But 60 cents for the Hardy Boys, the Tower Treasure, the first book I ever got. Still have it. If I wanted to read a word and I didn't know what the word meant, she'd say, "Look it up. There's a dictionary, look it up." Now, I could ask her to go to the movies or theater or anything, and she would never do that. So I'd say, "Mom, can we go to the library?" She'd always take me to the library. So she started, and when I got junior high, I found out about English, and I really loved English in junior high. I worked on it 5 or 6 hours a week. It's the only way you can control the cue ball. You've got to put the right English on it. It doesn't work. But there were four men that were sort of sinners. One saint. But the sinners were, one was a policeman, one was a drunk, one was a con artist, and one was a mafia bookie. These actually had a lot to do with how I came to be a writer. Now the policeman, the first job I had out of college, I was a policeman. I did it for 5 years. And the very first guy that was a police sergeant, he taught me the gravitas of the written word. And his favorite expression that he used to say all the time, those that know don't talk, those that talk don't know. So y'all have been warned. But I left the police department and I went to work for State Farm Insurance as an insurance adjuster in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I learned the importance of a single word there. I'd been there for about 3 months, and one day the boss called me to his office, closed the door. Now that ain't never good when the boss closes the door. He said, I want to talk to you about anybody, nobody, and somebody. He said, there's a man that had the same job I did. He's a drunk. He got busted. We didn't fire him, but he got busted from being a boss to being a peon just like you. He doesn't like anybody. Nobody likes him, but he's got to sit next to somebody. And that somebody's you. So sure enough, this guy comes to work. And he sat right beside me. Our desks were butted up against each other. He didn't talk to me, I didn't talk to him, he didn't talk to nobody. But I could hear him on the phone, and he was very sophisticated in a very unsophisticated kind of way. And after about 3 weeks, he leaned up over his desk and he said, you're doing it wrong. You don't say, hi, how you doing? Not, hi, my name is. His first words were, you're doing it wrong. And I could smell the liquor on his breath. And I said, doing what wrong? He said, when you call people on the phone, you say you want to talk to them about the little wreck they had. I said, yeah, that's why I'm calling them. He said, no, that's the why, but not the how. He said, the minute you use the word little, you've lost them. He said, because when you say you've had a little wreck, if you've been in a wreck, it wasn't little, it's a big deal. He said, you start off on the wrong foot. You need to throw the word little out of your vocabulary. And I never looked at the English language or him the same way ever again, because I thought to myself, any man that thinks that much about a word as small as little is someone I can listen to and learn from. He became my very best friend. His favorite expression, if they say they is, they ain't. I always kind of like that. I had 2 people after that really made a difference. One was a mafia bookie. I went to school in Durant, Southeastern. And I discovered bridge my first year of college. And came home from school. If you ever meet my mother, do not tell her this story. Whatever you do, you don't know. I started playing bridge, and I would ask people questions. I was getting beat up really, really bad. No matter what I did, I got beat up. And I would ask people what I should do, what I should do. And I get 6 different answers to the same question. I knew that couldn't be right. It was impossible. So finally I said, who's the best player in town? That was unanimous. That was one person. And I thought, well, I'll go find that person. I'll get started playing bridge with them. And in 2 weeks, I'll be as good as they are. It's been the longest 2 weeks of my life. But they found out the guy that was the best player was a mafia bookie. He ran a speakeasy in Tulsa. It's a place that nobody would know about except maybe Jeff. Dr. Brian. None of the rest of them would know. So I went. I had to pay $20 for a membership. At the time, in 1978, $20 was a lot of money. So I paid the money and I went, and he wasn't there, and they said, you can't come in anyway, you're wearing blue jeans, go home and change your clothes. I put on the only pair of slacks I owned. And so for 5 nights in a row, I went every day to try to meet this guy named Byron Greenberg. So finally I met him, and I walked up to him, and I was 19, and he was about 55. I said, "Hi, I understand you're the best player in Oklahoma at bridge. Is that true?" He thought I was there to hustle him. He thought I wanted to play bridge for money. He said, "Well, no, some people would say to somebody else, did you want to play for some money?" I said, "Oh, no, sir." I said, "I just want to learn how to play bridge." He summed up education in 23 words. These 23 words, if you take them and you can give them to anybody in any subject, that's all you need to know about education. He did it 23 that I absolutely memorized. He said, play all you can play, read all you can read, always play with people better than you, learn something every time you play. I said, what else? He said, there is no what else. That's it. I said, that's it? He said, that's it. I said, okay, someday you and I will play. It took me 5 years, but eventually he and I became partners. Played with him. So that was the precursor to me becoming a writer. When I was in college, I went to Southeastern in Durant. Talked earlier, I heard people talking about college prep work. The only prep work I got, take 2 pencils and have a notebook. They say it more than twice, write it down, and it'll be on the test. That was my college prep work. So I went to college and didn't know anybody. I didn't have any family. I had no friends. I was out of my depth. I hated it. I was on a football scholarship. I hated it because they weren't interested in learning in the football program. They were interested in keeping you eligible, but the learning part they weren't too keen about. So I went and asked this old man in a coffee shop if he'd like to play chess. He said, I quit playing chess. He said, I much prefer bridge. It's a much faster game. About that time the game started, he said, you want to watch? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, my background sort of dictated this. I said, well, what are y'all playing for? He said, we're playing for a rubber. I thought it was a very strange thing for 4 grown men to be playing for, but in bridge, it's called rubber bridge. The 2 games constitute a rubber. It has no other meaning other than that. So I became friends with this guy and got to know him, and pretty soon I found out he taught the English department. I said, what do you teach? He said, I teach humanities. I didn't know what that was. He explained it to me. He said, you should take my class. He said, you get some culture. Only culture I've had was yogurt, and I didn't like it very much. But sure enough, I took his class, and he was big into food. He talked a lot about food when he taught his class. And he talked about escargot. Now, I did not know what escargot was. I'm from Owasso, Oklahoma. I know what ham and eggs are. I know pork and beans, shrimp and grits. But escargot, I had no idea. He said, it's French. He said, it's snails. I said, I'd never put a snail in my mouth. That's gross, disgusting, and uncouth. He said, okay. So, needless to say, I took him for 4 different classes. When I took him for Religions of the World, a woman in class said something about the only way to get to heaven if you were a certain religion. I said, that's awful narrow-minded. Do you think only one religion and one church could possibly get you to heaven? That's very narrow-minded. Dr. Stark said, yeah. Mr. Beck, your point's well taken. He said, I would equate that to a man who would not try escargot. Slapped me down really quick. Well, I became a 9th semester freshman. Not a freshman. That's the 9th semester. I was about to graduate. I misspoke. But I never taken freshman English. I'd taken everything else, but I did not take freshman English. I was afraid of it. I was scared to write. I was afraid of it. Didn't want to take it, but I had to. Now, I'd had him for 4 classes, and I made an A in all 4 of them. I thought, okay, now's the time to take freshman English. So I took his class, my last semester, and boy, I'm happy. I sat down, turned in the first paper, and wrote it in black ink, and it came back. It was red. It wasn't just a little bit of red, it was color. I mean, every page. And I didn't get an A on the paper, and I didn't get a B. I didn't get a C. I got a D. It was the first D I ever got. I thought, how am I going to explain this to my mother when I get home? I got a D. I didn't say nothing. I just worked on it, turned it in the next paper. I got a C minus, and it was just kind of surrounded in red. It wasn't covered, but it was surrounded. So all semester long, all I got were C's and D's. I still played bridge, and every single day we played bridge in the coffee shop, and not one time did I ever say anything to him about it or he say anything to me about it. I just would work on the paper, and no matter how hard I tried, a C or a D was the very best. I got one C plus. So the semester ends, and I know that I'm going to get a C or a D in this class. I know. I'm positive that that's what the outcome is. Well, I go check the grades, and I don't know how you all do it now. I mean, I remember one time when a tweet was the sound a bird made. But now, who knows what it means? But they put them on the outside of the classroom. They had put the Social Security number, and then they put the grade. The only person probably old enough to know that is Dr. Grimes. He still knows. But anyway, I checked my grade, and there was an A beside my name. It was an A, and I hadn't made it. It wasn't possible. Now my mind said, just take the grade, take the A, leave, don't say nothing to nobody, it'll be fine. You won't notice, and just go, but I wasn't raised that way. That was wrong. I couldn't do it. I went to his office. Now, have you ever gone in and told a college professor they was wrong? Let me tell you something, that's real hard to do. I mean, I've never done it before. I've only done it once. And it was really uncomfortable. I went and knocked on his door, and I said, Mr. Starks, have you got a minute? And he said, yeah, come on in. I said, I just want to check the grades, and I couldn't figure out how to say it. I said, I want to check the grades. You made a mistake. You messed up. There's an A beside my name. He said, no, I didn't mess up. You made a negative class. And I said, that's not possible. He said, no, it's possible. He said, you didn't understand. He said, you were being graded on a different scale than everybody else in the class. I looked at him and I said, you con me. No, he said, I'll let you con yourself. I said, why would you do that? You're a teacher. You're supposed to have ethics and morals. He said, Norman, if you had gotten an A on the very first paper, and I handed it back to you, he said, you wouldn't have worked as hard, you wouldn't have studied as much, or learned as well. He said, I played cards with you for 4 years. I know how you think. And he said, you don't like to lose. Ever. You do not like to lose. He said, now here's what I want you to do. He said, I want you to go out, leave this class, and go out to life, and work as hard at life as you did at this freshman comp class, and you'll do just fine. I wasn't smart enough to realize what he'd done, and I wasn't witty enough to realize why he'd done it, and I certainly wasn't wise enough to thank him for it. He was the second best teacher I ever had. Number 2. Earlier, there's been a lot of great facts and information about this. And looking at your program sheet on the very last page, it says the Right to Work Conference is focused on providing you with inspiration and ideas you can put into action in your classroom. I want to give you one idea and one little piece of information, or inspiration. It's only 4 words. I didn't bring a slideshow presentation. I figured that you all can remember 4 words. And they're not very long, only 10 letters total. I went to school at Southeastern State School. You said, you go to Harvard or Yale. Big kingdom. You don't get these 4 words. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't trade going to another school if I hadn't heard these 4 words. as a student. Teacher told me to. Only one teacher in all my schooling ever said this to me. Now, in junior high, high school, college, grade school, I only heard it one time. But I heard him about 10,000 times. I heard him my whole life. Only 4 words. And when I first heard them, I didn't believe them. And you know, you have kids come into your class. You don't know what their comeuppance were. You don't know what their upbringing was. Or if you're from Harvard again, you don't know what their pedigree is. You don't know what their background is. And as a teacher, if you'll just tell your kids, you get some kid that's not very good, and you get them over in the corner, and you just say these 4 words, and you say it today, and you say it tomorrow, and you say it next week, and you'll be amazed at what can happen. And those 4 words are simply, you can do this. When they say, no, I can't, you just repeat the 3 words after that. Yes, you can. I can't do this. Yes, you can. You can do this. Now, the first time I ever heard it, I was about 5. And I was trying to learn how to tie my shoe. And my mother said, you can do it. No, I can't. Yes, you can. No, I can't. Yes, you can. Now, she was like a broken record. She never did say anything other than that. Yes, you can. She did it when I was 5, 6. She's still doing it today. She's the slowest person you ever saw. Now, I didn't tell you what she does for a living. And you all are teachers and educators. My mom's been a teacher her whole life. Now, I'm 58 years old. I'm 58. How many years would anybody care to guess she's been retired? I'm going to tell you, she's not. She's still teaching. She teaches 2 classes a week. She came down here. She came down here to Dallas over the weekend. Now, you think she want to go to a museum? Nah. What do you want to do? Really would like to find a really good used bookstore. I need some new books for my children's class. I'm still teaching. Could you take? I probably will, Mom. She said, what are you doing today? And I said, well, I'm going to a writers' conference. I'm giving a talk to a bunch of writers. I want to go. What do you want to go to a writers' conference for? She said, I might learn something. So at 89, that's what she did. She came. And I hope she learned something. I hope y'all do too. Thank you.